part two of some of Matt Adams being a slave apologist. I caught a few more hours of him today promoting nationalism in place of Christianity. I'll put that up in a few days. And I've got about 2 hours worth of Darth Dawkins to break up and bring to you for your viewing pleasure. I hope you've had a wonderful weekend.
All righty. Okay, so what do you have a problem with that I'm saying here, Andrew?
Because in Leviticus it describes permanent slaves that you can hand down to your children, and there are also other indentured servants in the Bible. It's talking about permanent slavery. And the Hebrews can enslave
That
other
doesn't mean
people
it's
from
chattel
other
slavery.
nations. What's the difference?
Well, presumably we could safely assume based off other passages, this was some sort of debt that these people had accrued maybe in another land. So it was kind of something that they had been taking part in the social agreement of that time period.
Those exist. There's indentured servitude in the Bible, but this Leviticus isn't talking about that. Leviticus is talking about people who are not free to leave and are not paid.
Well, the Bible also gives a specific passage where it allows us doesn't say it.
No, yeah,
Deuteronomy.
there's a.
It says if a slave flees stay where he wants, and you shall not wrong him. So basically, what we have here is a sanctuary city for runaway slaves.
I'm talking about before he flees. Why did he have to flee?
Presumably, maybe he felt like he's being mistreated.
Right, because God says you can.
Well, let me ask you this: in the U.S., there was what's called the Fugitive Slave Acts. Do you know what that was?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Fugitive Slave Act. Ever heard of it?
The law. It was a law. I don't know if I know that specific one. What was that one?
Legal to harbor runaway slaves, and you could be punished. In the Code of Hammurabi, you could be punished for harboring a runaway slave. But in the Bible, it actually commands you to harbor a runaway slave in Deuteronomy.
Right, but you're missing the point. No, I think if God said adultery is bad. God said adultery is bad.
Well, could it be possible that there could be some reasons why God did not just say, do not do slavery?
Do you want to hear it?
Sure.
Yeah, my theory is it's that because people who supported slavery wrote this book and had to make it so their God allowed it.
Well, that theory wouldn't really work. Because
what's the alternative is that God said slavery is okay. Which one do you want?
Well, I think that in some cases God would say certain types of slavery is morally justified.
No, he doesn't distinguish. He's very clear in the type of slavery that he instructs in Leviticus. He instructs in Leviticus. Yeah. No, not for the Hebrews. The Hebrews are allowed to take slaves.
Well, here it doesn't distinguish a Hebrew from a non-Hebrew. It just says anyone who kidnaps someone and anyone found in possession of them must be unalived.
Right, except that laws. God
Wait a second. Are you saying that he's saying that
Yes, that's clear.
Well, then why was it the case? This is considered the Mosaic Mosaic law for
that after they beat somebody in battle that they can take their women and children?
Well, he didn't. Well, he didn't happen. Yes.
No, he said when you come to a town and you may offer them words of peace, and if they do not accept, you may demolish them and take all of their stuff as booty, their women, their children. Yeah.
So what
you
would
shall
be wrong
do
with
that. He said
though?
you shall. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Do
I
you
think that was the best option.
so? But wait, why not now?
Well, because now I mean, hopefully it may actually be the best option. Now it should be done. But I don't think we have nations that are routinely burning their children alive and things like that today and doing all this heinous evil. But it may be the case if we did, that would probably be the best option.
It was good then. It was good to do that then.
I think a morally justified thing to do, yes. And if we were living,
the women and children,
yeah, if we were living in a society that was doing that today, it may be necessary to do that again.
And you would think that's good.
Well, when you say good, I would say it's morally justified. I don't even think God would consider it good in one regard.
If the U.S. is forced to battle somebody because they're a threat or something like that, you're saying why would we take anybody? Why would we take women and children?
Because I mean, I don't know what you mean by showing them not to do that. Presumably, they should have known the war.
Win the battle. Win the battle.
Yeah, and then teach them. You know what? We're going to teach you a lesson
or take
here.
Them.
You don't
teach them or take them.
You don't. I mean, if you're saying teach them, we say, oh well, you know what? We don't need to be sacrificing our children on altars. I mean, do you think that if they had already reached that level of depravity, it weren't?
Dude, when the Bible is talking about going to these villages,
do you think you could have taught? What's that?
Go ahead. It's talking about in biblical times, God is commanding them that when they demolish a town or city, to take their women and children as slaves. You're saying that's a good thing. You're saying that's a good thing. Just
because of what they were doing, according to Leviticus 18 and 20. Do you know the list of things that they were practicing according to those passages?
Yeah, I think I am being a Christian.
Do you think that was something? Would you want to live next to a society that was practicing those things?
I don't believe in
human rights violations and stuff.
So, agree with we should go in and demolish them and take their women and children?
Sure, if it's violating human rights, that may be necessary.
I don't want, but that and how you run your politics, but that's certainly not an America First policy.
Wait a second. Do you think you don't think it would have been when we invaded in and we people and put them in prison? You don't think that was just?
If they were tried, if we took people and they were in prison, did they have trials?
No, not before then. It was afterwards.
Did we enslave them?
Yeah.
Did we take their children? Did we take the Germans' children and women?
Well,
no, we didn't. No, we didn't. Currently, there are human rights problems all over the world right now, but we're not sticking our nose in it. Should we?
Well, it might. But if they were right next door, then yes, I think we should. If Canada was doing what they were doing right next to Israel during that time period, then absolutely we should have done something.
And then we have a moral obligation to do it, I think.
from God.
After we win, we should take our women and children out of Canada and enslave them.
It doesn't say enslave them.
We should. Okay, fine. We should. Should we take their women and children at all? Should we take their women and children at all?
It would be necessary to do that.
Why?
I'm not saying we should,
what would force us to do that?
Well, what would force us to do it is if they had no way to take care of themselves after we've taken out all these people that had these beliefs and customs that violated humanity.
It's crazy that you're justifying taking a city and then stealing their women and children. It's wild.
Well, it's not. I don't consider it stealing. I consider them having actually.
Do they want to go
to it?
No, the women
no.
and the children in the Bible. The women seldom have consent in the Bible, Old Testament and New.
Actually, I would even make the case that a lot of the women in the Bible actually were perfectly fine with being taken into captive like that.
What are you talking about, sir?
Because they sacrificed.
We killed their men, and they're happy about it.
They sacrificed their own children. They took them without getting too graphic, and they heated up. They did a lot of them, and it was a custom.
No, that's not in the Bible. That's not in the Bible.
Yes, it is.
Nope. One of the reasons. Well, the Bible. Yeah. You're right.
Leviticus 18 and 20 specifically talk about the heathen nations around them sacrificing their own children. And according to historical record, it was a terribly inhumane way to do it.
In the Bible, it doesn't talk about sacrificing children.
Yes, it does. Multiple passages.
Well, but also
Leviticus
God
18 and 20 specifically.
Well, God commands the sacrifice of children all the time.
No, he doesn't.
What happened? What happened? What's the story? I don't remember the verse. What's
Abraham
the story
and
of? No. What's the story about the 40 or so small boys who made fun of someone for being bald, and then God had two bears maul them to death?
That's Elisha when they come out and told him, "Go up, Baldy," and was mocking him. And Elisha
was that deserving of death?
Sure.
Why?
Because they were mocking a prophet of God.
So?
I mean, actually, why would you not think that was deserving of death to mock God, to mock your own creator?
Is that just so? Anybody who mocks a prophet, especially children, should be mauled by bears?
What's that?
Should be mauled by bears?
Well, when you say should be, if God decides that should be the case, then yeah, I think that's morally just.
And you agree?
Yes.
You agree that those boys, for calling someone bald, those boys should be put to death?
They were actually doing more than just that.
In the Bible, all they said was "Go away, Baldy," or "Go away, Baldy."
You have to admit there was more going on than just that, even by reading. Even the text does. So you
no. The text. Why? I'm not going to add stuff to the text.
So you have to look. I don't think all you have to do is look at the text and assume something far more sinister.
I'm not going to assume. Why would I assume anything?
Well, then the obvious question would be, what were over 40 adolescents and children doing in an area where wild animals and stuff could come out and eat them to begin with?
What's that have to do with
it? Where were their parents?
Why does that matter?
Hadn't you ever asked that question?
No,
Really?
I would never put children to death by mauling for making fun of anybody.
Well, I mean, look, the bears have
my morals are better than God's.
The bear has to eat too, doesn't it?
Children? Human children?
I mean, in this case, yeah. The bear was fed, right?
You're justifying the death of these children now. You're absolutely wild, man.
I'm saying that God is the giver and taker of life. And if you're going to go and mock one of his prophets, and presumably this must have been some sort of gang type situation, because the Bible...
it doesn't say that.
Well, we've got the Bible...
No, we can't. No, we can't. When I look at that passage, when I look at that passage...
I'm going to explain to you why we can with other passages of Scripture.
Let me add this. No. Let me add this. If when I read that passage, if I don't know anything about the Bible and I read just that passage, You read it and go, I have to look at this and I have to add stuff and work myself into pretzels to justify it. I look
I
at
don't
it
have to
as it
add
is.
anything. The
Yeah,
Bible
you
already
have.
says this stuff.
No, you question. Why were they in the woods in the first place? Where are their parents? You added that.
Well, the reason why I asked this question is because did you know, and we can even get this later on too, when they traveled in large groups. Why do you think that was? We can get that even
Who?
from the Bible.
Who?
People, when they went to different places, traveled in large groups, and God said that He was not going
Sometimes.
to. He's not going to run out the people from the land all at once because of what? It would be taken over by what? Wild animals,
I'm,
right? Wild animals would
I
take
don't
it
know
over.
what I don't know what this
We
has to do
know.
with what you're
Well,
the
I'm giving
story.
you the reason why it's reasonable to assume. We know that David had talked about apparently unaliving wild animals as he was a shepherd. He had to deal with this kind of stuff. This was the daily life of someone living in that society, that these things happened. This was a norm of life, that wild animals, even when Joseph was sold out, they made it seem like he was eaten by a wild animal because that apparently was pretty normal during that time period. So have you
There's a
ever
difference. There's a difference.
wondered, have you ever asked yourself, what was 42 adolescent age children running around out here with no parent supervision, mocking a
Uh-huh.
prophet of God in the
Right.
wilderness? What do you think was going
But
on there?
you just described two different situations. You described situations where people happen to be attacked and eaten by animals. In this story, God commanded it.
I agree. I'm not I'm not.
It's not so it's not analogous.
No, it is analogous because you would
No,
have
it's
to.
not.
Yes, the reason why it's analogous is because we can get a reasonable, by reading scripture without having to add anything to it, that being attacked by wild animals was a common thing.
But God commanded
Would
that.
you agree with it?
That was the
Yeah,
pun.
God. Well, it said
No.
that
What?
God sent two bears and they feasted upon them. They did. I'm not using that word, but they ripped these children
They
limb to limb.
unalived.
Yeah, they unalived these children, these
Yes.
adolescents, whatever you want to call them. So
And that's a and you
the
and that's
obvious
just and
question,
that's just to you.
yes, I have no problem with that. Look, if we were reading a story
Wow.
today in which there was a group of adolescents roaming, say, what's that big park in California where grizzly bears are known, or Canada, Alaska, something like that, and we read that they were all eaten by bears,
Yellowstone?
Yellowstone, would we think, oh, this is an unjust thing for God to do?
Yes, if he commanded it, yes.
Well, I mean, God is the giver and taker of life. He's the one that sustains all life. So it's happening with him knowing it,
So
right?
your argument so your argument is God so your argument is God works in mysterious ways.
No, I think that this was the lesson. You mock a prophet of God, you're mocking God, and admittedly,
But you children get put to death.
yes. Apparently, they knew
Yeah,
what they were.
children get put to death for saying someone's bald.
Apparently, they knew what they were doing, right?
Yeah, I
They,
guess no,
yeah,
they did
they
not.
had enough
They did not.
information because they were comparing him. They said, "Go up, Baldy, go up," or something. Elijah, his teacher, prophet before him, went up, and they were like, apparently going after him, mocking him like this, telling him to do the same thing. They didn't want anything to do with him,
Right.
and then next thing you
But
know, they became a meal for two she bears. I don't.
no,
If God exists,
no. My argument is
I don't think God is unjust for doing that.
my argument is God chose that to be the punishment. Why couldn't he have chosen something that didn't involve them dying?
Well, I mean, that's a question that we don't know the answer to.
No, we do. He could have. He chose to.
Well,
Why didn't he show up? And why did no? Hold on. Why didn't he show up in front of them and make the sky dark for a couple seconds and say, "Don't mock my prophets," and scare the shit out of them?
you mean like he did at Jesus's baptism?
Sure.
And
Just
when God
anything that
spoke,
didn't involve
okay,
anything
and
that didn't involve them dying.
when God spoke from heaven while Moses was on the Mount Sinai, uh, and they heard this and they were trembled and were terrified.
Yeah.
Well,
Why do you have to kill the
it
kids?
didn't,
Why do you have to
it
kill
didn't,
kids?
it didn't stop all of them from sinning, did it? They still continued to sin.
So it sounds like
So
he
what
gave him a
makes?
chance, right?
Well, I would think that he. Well, you couldn't even argue that he was showing them mercy to take them
Yeah.
out to keep them from.
Why didn't he show children? Why doesn't he show children mercy?
Well, he did by letting them to get eaten by a bear. Is what I'm saying.
That's not mercy. That's murder.
Well, it could be the case that had he not done this, have you ever thought about this? And look, this is just speculation. I'm not saying this is the case, but had they been allowed to continue on, they would have continued to mock and ridicule and become worse than what their own generation had become, and then their wrath would have been worse. So maybe God
We
was
don't, but we don't know.
actually
But we don't know that. If
yeah,
God
but
if God appeared,
you
if
don't
I did
know that
something,
God is you don't
if
know
I
that
did
God is
something wrong,
unjust here either, do you?
if I did something wrong and
Did you answer that
he
question?
somehow, I'm sorry, say that again.
You don't know that God is unjust in what he did here, neither do you.
The crime, to me, the crime does not fit the punishment.
Well, you don't know that, right?
In my morality,
you could be wrong.
in my morality, I don't think anybody should be put to death or suffer
Yeah,
for
but
making fun of somebody.
your
My
morality
morality is
could
better
end
than
up
God's.
your morality could end up condoning things that you shouldn't condone, right?
Yeah, that's free will.
Okay.
We do
So
the
you're
we do the best
saying
we
that
can.
so you could be wrong about what you think about your morality, right?
I'm not. No.
Well, wait a second. You know for a fact that your morality is correct.
Yes, I know for a fact that I would never unalive somebody for making fun of somebody.
Okay, well, maybe you wouldn't have done that, but maybe you wouldn't have done some other things too that would have called for judgment. Like maybe you
Well,
would have
one thing,
maybe you would have turned a blind eye when a woman said, "Well, you know what? I'm just not ready for this child right now. I'm just not ready." And say, "Oh, okay, yeah, it's probably better you just go unalive it." I mean, maybe
that's
you
not
would.
my business.
Oh, okay. Well, this isn't your business then either. It's God's body, God's choice. It's God's body, God's choice.
So I disagree.
If the earth and everything in it, according to the Bible, is God's,
Right.
including humans, including plants, life, everything, then they're His bodies. So it's His bodies, His choice, right?
Sure. If in your worldview,
okay.
Yes.
Then there's nothing really wrong if God decides it. I could just simply say, well, it's none of your business.
No.
Right?
My morality minimalizes suffering,
I'm
to
just
me,
saying, this is none of your business that God allowed the
it is my
bears to come.
business.
Oh, okay. Then why isn't your business when
Because God could do that
99%
to
of
me.
all women,
Because God,
when they choose to unalive a child in the womb, it's not done
there's no
because
suffering.
their life.
There's no suffering.
Okay. Well, how do you know that these children didn't suffer?
Do children usually suffer if their limbs are ripped off and they die?
Well, maybe God intervened and allowed it to happen in a way where they wouldn't suffer.
We don't, but that's not what the text says. The text doesn't say that.
Well, I'm just asking it. Would it be okay then? Let's say that when God did everything He did, wiping out, had the Amalekites wiped out, the global flood, all of this. Let's just say that God somehow did something to where they didn't actually feel a thing, they didn't suffer. Would it be okay then?
If the Bible said that, sure.
Okay, so it would be okay for God to just mass unalive whom He wants, as long as they don't have to suffer while He's doing it.
No, I don't think that's okay.
Then
but
when you
for the sake of the argument,
your argument doesn't work. Then, when you said, "Well, it's because these babies aren't in suffering," as if that was a problem, but you're saying that it wouldn't be okay if God did it now, so you just wrecked your own argument.
No.
Yeah, you just contradicted yourself.
When God with the Amalekites, did God send man to go chop them up, or did God snap His fingers and they unalive and immediately?
He sent man to
Right.
with the sword.
And when they conquered a city, do you think people suffered?
Sure.
Okay. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, well
Pain.
then,
I'm talking about pain. I'm talking about pain and suffering that
okay.
God chose.
But you said that even if God were to do it in such a way that they wouldn't experience that, you're saying it still wouldn't be okay.
Because
So
the crime doesn't fit the punishment.
why did you bring up, well, I mean, unaliving a child in the womb simply for being Eve doesn't fit the punishment either, does it?
There's no crime.
Oh, okay, so they're unalive for not even committing a crime. That's even worse.
No, they're not
So
unalive. They're not alive.
you understand you sound incredibly inconsistent now, don't you?
No, because I don't believe in God in the first place.
That's not in it. Yeah, I mean, you're arguing it in the context of there being God here. So saying you don't believe in God's not going to do you any good.
Well, no, but sir, I can flip it back on you. You said all of that suffering from the Bible and all of that unaliving in the Bible is okay. So therefore, you would think that abortion is okay.
No, because it's not God doing it.
Why? What do you mean?
If God does it, then sure, because they're His bodies, His choice. It's not
Does
the
God
woman's
know?
body.
Does God know a woman what a woman is going to do?
Sure.
Okay, so he already knows someone's going to abort somebody.
Sure.
So
And
maybe
that's
he
why,
should intervene
that
in some
doesn't
way.
mean it's not wrong. It doesn't
Right.
violate His commandment, even though He knows it.
Why did God have David's wives raped in broad daylight and his child unalived for David's own sin?
Well, He actually didn't have the wives raped. He did
Yes, he did.
He did unalive the child, but I think it was because he didn't. I think he was showing mercy, not wanting the child to have to be viewed as an illegitimate son his whole life under the law.
So it was good that God unalived. Well, first of all, he didn't unalive him. He made him sick for about a week. So suffering, he made him suffer, and then unalive. And yes, the woman where
Well, we
God said,
don't
"I
know
will
what the
take."
baby was experiencing. I mean,
The baby was sick and then died. That
sure.
Either way, that's not good, right?
Well, I wouldn't call it good, but it could be morally just.
Okay, so it's not. So it's not. Why was it just for God to do things to other people for someone else's sin?
Well, because He was trying to. I believe you could argue He's trying to show mercy here.
Again, mercy to who? What happened to the
mercy
wives?
so that the child wouldn't have to live a life of being considered an illegitimate child.
Would you unalive if you were illegitimate?
I would actually, if in that situation, I think I'd probably rather be with God. Yes.
So you'd rather?
I think God did. I think God did.
What about the wives? What about the wives?
The wives? Well, I mean, I guess they went and kind of did their thing with Absalom. What about?
Did they want to go do that?
Well, I mean, it doesn't say it was against their consent.
It doesn't say it was with their consent either, but we do have God saying.
Actually, we can't.
No, it doesn't. Nope. God says, "I will take your wives. I will take your wives and give them to somebody." We
can actually assume they were consensual in the matter.
How?
Based off of a previous passage. That's from 2 Samuel chapter 20 and 2 Samuel chapter 13, when David's son from another wife grapes his
Bathsheba?
sister. No, not Bathsheba. This is his daughter Tamar. And
yes.
the Hebrew, there's a Hebrew word there that means to force. That Hebrew word is not found in the passage you're talking about. So we can say there's no reason to think that this was violated their will or anything like that.
So, question. So God said, "I will take your wives and give them to somebody, and they will be graped in front of the town in broad daylight."
He doesn't say graped there.
You can inject whatever you want, but if David's wives,
that's what
let's say,
you think? They inject whatever they want.
I'm reading you the word. You're the one who's saying we must assume things.
I'm going by what the words say. Yeah, there's
right.
no reason to think that's great.
So so in this case, or in any other case in the Bible during that time, if wives of a man went and consented to adultery with somebody else, what would happen to them?
They would be unalived.
These people weren't unalived. These women weren't unalived.
Okay. Well, maybe they should have been.
So it
God
wasn't
had
adult.
mercy and didn't do it. What's that?
So if
You
it
would
was
admit that
consensual,
you would admit that they probably deserved it based on the law, right? The law of Moses.
the women deserve to be raped
No, they deserve to be stoned. The law of Moses would command them to stone them, right?
for David's sin.
No, this wouldn't be for David. This would be for their own. In broad daylight, lying with
Right. That's why
Absalom.
and they weren't stoned, and that's why it wasn't consensual.
Oh, well, that's an unreasonable thing to conclude because David and Bathsheba, David wasn't put to unalignment for his sin either. Even though
What
he
was David?
realized
What lesson did
he should have been, right?
What lesson did he learn?
Well, he learned that against God alone he sinned,
Right.
and that he deserved to be unalived. And then he praised God for his mercy and his love and his forgiveness and his long
Right.
suffering and patience. So he
And
learned
he
some
was
pretty
reward,
valuable lessons from that.
and he and Bathsheba stayed together and had another child. Correct.
Sure. Yeah.
So what was David's punishment?
Well, he lost his child. He lost his Absalom, who tried to turn against him. A lot of consequences happened from that. He was running.
It sounds like he got what he wanted.
He was running from his own son for a period of time.
He got what he wanted. He got Bathsheba.
Yeah, but he wouldn't have wanted her if he had to go through that.
Why didn't God just send Nathan and tell? Why didn't God send Nathan to tell David to not be with Bathsheba and go back to his wives?
Well, I don't think God just needs to always say, we better go tell them not to do this. David,
he must have people killed instead of saying it.
He was already warned by his very own trusty servants. Hey, this is Uriah's. Isn't this Uriah the Hittite's wife? And they were saying, hey, they were warning him, hey, this isn't right. So God did warn David.
But it was right in the end. It was right in the end. He got Bathsheba.
Well, it wasn't right. He still sinned against God.
If it wasn't right, why did he come out on top?
He didn't come out on top. He lost.